JP, welcome to the VoQuest Podcast, man. Thank you so much for hopping into this conversation and for sharing your experience, your wisdom.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm looking forward to it.
This is going to be fun. To kick things off, could you give us a little bit of background? What's your career journey been like? What was growing up like, and what's brought you to where you are today?
Sure. And this is probably something that your audience should know right off the bat. Not many people, not many of your guests know, or your audience know that, but you were actually in my wedding. You were one of the groomsmen in my wedding.
I
So
was.
this relationship goes back quite a while now.
It does, yeah.
Almost 13 years. Well,
Wow.
our relationship was longer than that, but my
Yeah.
wedding was 13 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, I am currently in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I went to college in Branson, Missouri, and I was a business major, failed veterinary science major. So sophomore year, I got you needed a 70% to go on to organic chem 2. And my professor was nice enough to give me a 69%, which was a nice way of saying, go find a different degree. Well, business
I
it
forgot
was for
about
me.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Business was for me. And it's kind of been a journey career-wise. I started off doing sales. I have a pretty entrepreneurial brother who was in the military, and he financed a business proposition for me when I was in college, and we sold magazine subscriptions to Rivercut, the golf course community south of Springfield. And that was kind of my first introduction to business, was owning a business and doing the sales cycle and putting together a book and a monthly book and putting together these events. But that experience was super formative for me. I was dating my now wife during that time. And so we put together monthly events. We were networking with people who were in a total different social class than I was at that time. I was driving my beater Chevy Lumina around in these people's very nice neighborhood, and I got chased off a couple times, but it was good. It was good for my soul. Um, after college, I just wasn't cut out for that sales thing. I needed to be in community, and so we closed up shop with the magazine. And
Could you
honestly,
talk about that just real briefly when you say not cut out for? Because I think that's super helpful for people as to how do they interpret this feedback that they get through their experiences? What were some of the things that were
sure.
helped you make that decision?
I sold. So like the crazy thing was, like, I was doing all the things. I was the youngest guy in the company to go to print. I went to one of our company leadership meetings, annual meetings, and they recognized me as like the youngest person in the company history to go to print for one of these books. And networking, like I got community contributions to the magazine. It was like a custom book that people in the community would write in different articles. And so looking back at it, I was doing the things, but in my heart, I hated what I was doing, because every time I sold something, it seemed disingenuous to me. I would there's one particular guy I can think of. I prayed with him in a Panera there on South Campbell, and then I prayed for his I think it was his wife. She was battling with cancer, and he ended up buying a 2-year subscription, advertising a spot. I'm like, that is so gross. Like, how can I? That's not right. I helped. There was one sales call where the two owners were having issues with their printer. And so I just hopped in there and I fixed their printer, and they bought a 2-year subscription. I was like, they are not buying my product. They're buying time with me. And that seemed inappropriate. The best sales call I ever did, it was amazing because I had my trainer on, like I had my phone in my pocket. It was on speaker, and they were on mute. They were listening to the sales call.
Wow.
And it was
no pressure.
It's just part of it. Actually,
Yeah.
that has opened up. I think that I haven't thought about that, but you're right. A lot of my world now has been under supervision, and so I think that was kind of the start of it. But, that sales call was absolutely terrible. I didn't do the things that I was so nervous. I didn't do the
Mhm,
things that, all the catchphrases or
mhm,
the things that we've been working on, the hooks to get people in. And this auto dealership ended up buying, like, the inside front cover for a year and a half, full color, and I walked out of it with this, like, $40,000 check, and my supervisor, my trainer was like, "Yeah, I don't have the words, man. Like, you you did it." Uh, so I was selling, and there was profit that way in the sense that, like, I was doing the things, but it just seemed disingenuous. And
mhm.
so for me, through that experience, I realized I needed to be on a team. I needed to have people that I brush shoulders with. Um, and so towards the end of my time at college at C of O, I think our last publication was a couple months before we graduated. And so it wasn't, I tried selling the business to somebody, one of the neighbors in the community. It wasn't a good fit for them. Um, and honestly, looking back at it, this was before technology is the way we know it now. And so
Mhm,
magazine wouldn't have gone very far for a few more years afterwards. So maybe it was God's timing saying, it's time to go on.
mhm.
But yeah, it just seemed disingenuous, even though I was going through and on paper was looking like I was doing all the right things. Um, I think as a college kid, I sold $120,000 of advertisement over a year and a half, and it was like that seemed like it was pretty good as a
Yeah,
kid, right? But
yeah.
and who knows what would have happened, but that those experiences led me to my career as a counselor, actually,
Mm.
because I had that awareness of marketing that um, through my actions, through my contributions, I can influence people and have a say in their life. So, uh, about 9 months after we got married, Tessa and I went and lived in South Korea for a year. We taught English. And that was kind of had been a dream of ours when we were towards the end of our time in college. There was a community of people that we knew from school that would go and work overseas, and they had an international experience. It wasn't missions. We didn't feel called to a people group or a place. We didn't want to fundraise, and so we wanted to have an international experience. We wanted to pay our own way, and so a really great friend of ours that we still keep up with. We reached out to them, and they gave us their contract after they were done. And
Was
so
that Jared?
yeah, yep,
Yeah,
Jared English and Amber
yeah.
English. They're great friends. We just saw them this summer.
Oh, cool.
Um, and that was probably the most formative year of our life. That was the classic leave and cleave.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, putting together a Wi-Fi router in Hangul, if you can figure that out, dude, you can conquer anything, man. Uh, we bought a ar while we were there. We traveled the country while we were there. We backpacked at the end of our contract. We backpacked from Mongolia to New Zealand for 4 months. So planes, trains, and automobiles.
Wow.
We got involved in a church while we were in Korea, and it was a very small leadership, elder-led church. And so I did some preaching, and then Tess and I led the youth program there. And I think that experience led us to really rely on each other. Um, we couldn't fall back on any previous experience living in a different country. We didn't have family there, didn't know the culture. All of our friends, uh, if they spoke English, we were going to be friends with them, you know. And so we joined. I joined the football team. The Samsung corporation football team sponsored one of the professional football teams there, and so
Wow.
they allowed foreigners to go. Waygukins. They allowed us to go and play on their team, and it's just a good, like a fond memory time where we look back and say God was good to us, and we learned a lot about ourselves and the importance of working together.
Mhm.
Um, came back into the country and just looking for jobs, kind of odd jobs. But I had felt the call to go into ministry, and through some connections from Tessa's uh, growing up there in Nixa, I picked up or I interviewed for a youth pastor job in Branson, working at Charlie's Christian Church. It's now rebranded. It's called the Grove now.
Huh.
But we served in youth ministry there for 3 or 4 years while I got my master's degree in school counseling, um, with an emphasis in clinical counseling. And then I worked in some rural school districts for a couple of years, getting my as a provisionally licensed counselor. You have to go through supervision, and so there's like a 2 or 3 thousand hour requirement where a supervisor watches you and gives you feedback on sessions and all that. So I worked as a school-based clinician for a few years in Reed Springs, Galena, Hurley, and Crane. And then
For those who don't know, those are very, very small towns, like
super small, like
1,500, 2,500 people.
no stoplight, no, not even a stop sign in Hurley.
Yeah.
So, but those were great experiences too. Those were my people. Kids bringing like deer in the back of their truck to school, and it was great. But through that experience, I'm working with high school boys and kind of in a vocational guidance counseling role, but I was still doing clinical counseling at that time. So it wasn't
Okay.
necessarily a guidance counselor working for the school. I was a contractor, and I had a room in the high school where kids would come and meet with me. We just talk about life. Who do you want to be? You're not bound by the decisions of your parents. A lot of it's low income, a lot of substance abuse in the families
Oh.
there. Um, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, I am telling these kids to push themselves to be the best that they can be. And then here I am not doing that myself. And so that was kind of the push for me to join the military. I have several family members who have served in the Army, active duty. And then I have one brother who's transitioned from active duty to the Guard in Nebraska. And initially, when Tessa and I were going through pre-marriage counseling, it was very evident. She did not want to be a spouse of a service member. And Joe Evans, our marriage counselor, made it very, very clear to me. All right, John, this is what she's saying. Choose the military, choose her. I was like,
Wow.
too easy. I'm choosing that. But it's funny how you fast forward a few years, things change, right?
Mhm.
And it was a different era in the military. I started going through very specifically what contract I wanted. I knew kind of what I wanted to do from the military. It was the era of COVID, and so I had to show initiative on my own. I had to get people to get the boxes checked. No one was going to do it for me. So it took about a year and a half for me to get all the boxes checked. And then I, went to MEPS and did the whole thing and went to basic training as a 30-year-old. And
Wow.
I found a home in the Wyoming Army National Guard. They picked me up. I work with their aviation company out there, and it's just been a wild ride. I still work as a counselor. Most people in the Guard have to have a civilian job, and then your service time is part time. It's part time until it's not part time. there's
Yeah.
there's never really a true balance. Uh, we have these TDY like orders that come up, and you'll be gone for 2 weeks or a
Huh.
month, and sometimes it's pretty short notice. But for the most part, it's pretty scheduled. You know what your schedule is going to look like. But currently, I'm working as a military and family life counselor with the Air Force, and I have the honor of working with a lot of junior service members as they're figuring out their place in the military. A lot of them are coming up on contract. deadlines, so they get to choose
Mhm.
to renew or they choose to stay in or get out, and just what does life look like getting out of the military? If they choosing to stay in, what does life look like in the military? I do a lot of work with spouses, and because of my experience working in schools, I work a lot with youth as well. And so it's kind of a mixed bag. Every day is a little bit different. I really appreciate that. Uh, but yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride. Bring us out to Cheyenne, Wyoming, is where we're currently at right now.
That's awesome. I love the way that God, directed the compounding, clarifying,
Hmm.
growing elements to what's led you to where you are today.
For sure.
Because, and I don't know if you'd want to speak to that, but if you were to write it on paper and just, let's say, I was in sales, youth ministry, counseling, English teaching, um, military, like from a high level, those things do not relate. They do
Mm.
not compound. They don't uh, lead to a specific result that you're at today. But in reality,
Mm.
God's used every one of those stair steps
Mm.
to help clarify, help refine, help you navigate to where you are today, which from what I understand and talking to you, love what you do, right?
Yeah.
Like you get an
There are days.
awesome,
There are days, of course, that I don't.
yeah.
I mean, everybody
Well,
has those.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, it's not all rainbows and butterflies and
Yeah.
Pollyanna, but you found a balance between service,
Mm.
excitement,
Mhm.
um, and not only that, but you get to do it in a really incredible environment where you can go hunt. You shared some pictures of your latest kills. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, so many things have like come together through this what could seem like a very unrelated
Mm.
journey. And I
Mm.
don't know if you want to share anything about that because you've
Yeah.
experienced it for yourself, and then you're also coaching people through how to navigate these pivot points in their life.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that the Lord has ordained your days, right? And he's visiting in this moment right now. He's visiting you in your birth, currently where you're sitting right now, and he's also sees you at your funeral. He's not
Hmm.
bound by time. He sees it all, right? And so he's ordained your days. And so it takes away a lot of the stress from me. Like I don't have to figure out this particular thing. I take advantage of opportunities as I see them. I think dispositionally, uh, I love change. I love like the opportunity to try new things and grow and learn new things. It's an addiction for me. Like I will spend a lot of time learning something new, just so I have that skill set. Um, and then like I'll move on to something else. But we're still bound by the reality that we got to have food, we got to have shelter. There's levels of security that we have to be able to pay the bills.
Hmm.
Um, but if you're not bound by the trappings of our culture, um, if you're not bound by keeping up with the Joneses, you really can live however you want to live. Tessa jokes with me when we were living in an apartment in Ozark. I would bring home like coyotes that I trapped or deer that I shot, and I we had a 2-story apart like a condo. I didn't even have a garage, right? So I would tie a rope around the banister going upstairs and run that rope through a second story window down to our back porch so I could hang critters and work on them and like flesh like not normal behavior for sure. But there was a certain lifestyle that I wanted to have, and I wasn't born in that era, and so I had to just make do, right? Uh,
I love it.
yeah, I've got 2 teenage kids now, and I'm driving both the nicest truck I've ever driven. It's 2012 Ford F-150, um, but I also drive one of the crappiest cars that I've ever driven because it's fuel efficient, and I don't really care, right? Like, and so my kid's like, "Dad, this car is embarrassing." Like, "Yeah, but it's really fuel efficient and allows me to save money so that I can go on adventures." And I think that it's kind of a disposition, right? Um, being okay with taking the opportunities that God puts in your path, and then being okay to stay. Like there's a level of maturity that requires you to stay in a spot for the season that you're there. Deciding when it's time to leave, that's what takes the maturity. And my wife, she God has complimented me with somebody that is very rooted in her family, very rooted in her faith. She is very rooted in a need for security. And so I have all sorts of ideas, but I've just learned, don't let all the ideas out of my head, you know? We'll voice all of them. And if I am gonna voice one, I need to think through what are the actual practical steps to get that accomplished, and then what are the potential pitfalls for our family. And if it passes that litmus test, my wife and I have, I think, going back to our time in Korea, uh, you know, we understand that like y- life is life. You get to make of it what you want. God's very clear about what rules to follow and how to behave, but how fast you go, he doesn't regulate that. He doesn't
Hmm.
regulate like how far you go. Like he just says
Mm-hmm.
this is your left and your right limit. Like go. And I think having a mindset of wanting to help other people um, and trying to better myself and better the groups around me has 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 opened up opportunities for me. Um, I'm not the best at what I do, but I want the team to be the best, and so I'm pouring into the people that are around me, and just trying to make it, yeah, the best that it possibly can be. But yeah, the Lord's blessed us in that sense of just like opportunities. But I think if you're looking for opportunities, then the opportunities come,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not without consequence. We've lived now probably we've moved probably 8 times since college, and there's great friends all over the world now that we've had to say goodbye to, and that's hard to do. It's hard to really get invested in a place, become an elder at a church or a deacon at a church, or do ministry with people, do life with people, and then after a few years move on to some other place. Um, but at the same time, those folks have come and visited us all over the world now, and uh, and I'm also just knowing that there are so many new people out there. You may not have met your best friend yet,
Hmm.
and when we move to new different places, we're always looking to try to just create a community of people who are true to the disciplines of Scripture, who love the Lord, and are going to do community with each other. And that's Tessa and I both. She's a stay-at-home mom now, and we got a couple teenagers, and we have a 7-month-old baby. And she finds herself in the throes of being a stay-at-home mom. Previously, she was a career like school teacher, educator, and so there's been a change in her mindset, and I've had to support her through that because she wants to go out and work.
Mm-hmm.
Her value is 100% outside of the home. Uh, but in this season, she's home. So what does
Mm-hmm.
she do? She goes and gets the neighbor ladies, and they go for walks 2 times a week. And she has Bible studies in her home, and she has Bible studies down the street with some neighbor ladies. Like, so she's facilitating that community while she's here. Uh, are we gonna stay in this house forever? Probably not. We'll probably flip it and move on to another thing. But like while you're here, you create that, you cultivate that community of people who are trying to live, um, as obediently as possible to what the Lord has for them.
That's awesome. I love that. It sounds like a lot of presence is involved in that, right? Like,
Yeah, God brings
be
people
be
to your path, right? He
mhm,
brings people to your path whether or not you open your mouth and talk to them is on you.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people are just looking for somebody to initiate those conversations.
Mhm.
And we do joke though. Tessa will joke with me and she'll say, "I make the friends and she keeps the friends." It's a pretty good. It's a pretty good team.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like how you started it too in the, not category, but the topic of, your lifestyle choices and, not letting the culture or the competition fuel your options. Because
Mhm.
if you're willing to, um, live differently, you can live differently in the way that
100%.
you want to live.
Yeah.
And I think
100%.
it's difficult, especially when you're young and when you're looking out into the world and see all this opportunity and all these options, to get distracted by what other people say you either need to do, need to achieve, need to make, need to the way that you need to live, the way that success and influence and, um, things are measured is very external and material
Yeah.
in general, I would say. But that could, if you're not careful, force you down certain paths that result in you being very unfulfilled, very
Mhm.
misaligned with your natural hardwiring and gifting and things that you really enjoy doing and investing yourself in, that could very well in and of themselves provide a kind of like you said, the need for security, need for income, you can check those boxes, but if you get sucked into, well, I've got to make X or I've got to drive Y or I've got to live in Z, whatever that material thing is, that might not be where you find
Yeah.
your fullest enjoyment in the work that the life that you're living in. The majority of your waking hours is at work, and so like, are you going to sacrifice the majority of your life for your commute and for your for where you sleep? Like, I don't know. It depends. But do you have anything to say
And
on
do
that?
you yeah, and do you know your neighbors, right? Like, uh, it's amazing to me how many times we've lived places where our neighbors open their garage door, they pull out, they go to work,
Hmm.
they come home, they open their garage door, they go into their garage, and I don't see
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
And there's neighbors down the street that are that way now. Um, and there, probably the best advice I ever got from one of my mentors was, John, you need to have a near death experience where you're convinced you're going to die,
Hmm.
and you need to make a bunch of money and you need to lose a bunch of money. And then you'll realize none of it really matters. and, and,
Wow.
those things have happened. We were in Laos on our travels after Korea, and you can look this place up. It's called the Gibbon Experience, and you go into the jungle for a couple days, and you zip line across these mountain canopies, and you spend the night in a treetop tree house. I mean, for lack of better words, it's a tree house, but it's really really nice.
Hmm.
Metal roof. There's railing all around, and it's got a toilet and a shower. It's really really nice. You're up in a
That's
tree.
awesome.
Um, but we had this crazy tropical storm blow through, and the tree is swaying back and forth, and there's lightning, and the only way in and out of this tree house is on a metal zip line, and there's a metal roof, and like you're getting blown around with this
Oh
wind,
wow.
and it was that moment that I look back to, and I was like, I am going to die. I'm
Wow.
100% out of my safety. I am not in control of what happens right now. And the Lord had a plan for us. We got out of that scenario. Um, and that was the moment where I realized your days are ordained.
Hmm.
God has a purpose for you. Um, whether it's, I've been in car accidents before. There's just these moments where it is very apparent I should not have made it through this, and I walked away from it. Blessed be the name of the Lord. All right,
Wow.
so let's see what God has for me today. And so I think that's an important mindset. First and foremost is like not being fearful of the future, not being fearful of making the wrong decision, because God, at the end of the day, your God's sovereignty is bigger than my stupidity. period. Um,
I
and
love
and
that.
and then also with the finances, we spend so much time comparing ourselves to other people, and at the end of the day, like, you don't get to take any of it with you. 100 years from now, I love this illustration. 100 years from now, your car is going to be scrap metal. Strangers are going to be living in the home that you live in, and by 2 generations, no one's going to remember you. Not going to remember your story. You fall away into anonymity. Like, maybe they'll remember your name or where you came from or
Mhm.
some one event of your life. But you're like, there's nothing there. So the pursuit of stuff for me really isn't it. We try to give our kids experiences. We're in Christmas holidays now, and so we're at the point we don't give toys. We don't give, like, we give, like, cash and, like, practical things, and then we just go and do these experiences that are broadening and help them to kind of see how big the world can be, and just broadening experiences, because those are the things that we've particularly value. It's not the stuff, because stuff comes and goes and it breaks, and so yeah, I think that's probably part of that disposition, is just understanding that our life is not our own. The Lord
Mhm.
has ordained our days, and the accumulation of stuff, like, you don't get to take. There's no U-Hauls following hearses, right? We're not Vikings. You don't get buried with your treasures, like, so. Uh, just, make sure that what you're doing is part of your gifting, and I think that's probably the other part of what you're talking about with young people who are trying to figure out, or even mid-age people or old
Mhm.
people who are trying to figure out, what does God have for me now? And God's given us all so many different. It's so different, the way that we think, our dispositions, whether we're introverted or extroverted or gregarious or agreeable or disagreeable. There's so many different forms of intelligence in how those things play out in our day-to-day lives. And if you're looking to somebody else to say, oh, that person looks happy, so I'm going to do what they do, it entirely may be something that is not appropriate for you. Like, you have to do the business of looking at what has God gifted me with. I'm a middleborn of 6 kids. There's 5 brothers, 3 older. I have one younger sister and 1 younger brother, and there is sorry, there's 6 kids in my family. I'm
Mhm.
the 5th brother, but I'm right in the middle, and that growing up, I had to interact with people who were 10 years older and 10 years younger, and I had to learn and kind of deal with all different types of people. Growing up, I was the peacemaker in my family, and I tried to bridge the gap and the divide between conflicts between parents and kids and all this different stuff. I didn't know that was God training me to be a counselor, because I could
Mhm.
see other people's sides, and I'm not scared of addressing conflict. Uh, I, I couldn't have been with all my brothers. Like, you had to be vocal if you were gonna if
Yeah.
you were gonna win. You had to be the loudest, right? So conflict. I was raised up in conflict, uh, but also just loving. I just love seeing the restoration of relationships. And so those are all soft skills that I was learning while I was growing up. And even I, even in my job in the military, that's not without value, right? There's people involved there. There's personalities involved there. And so just because I use those dispositions as a counselor doesn't mean in my military service I don't use those as well. And so God gives you a disposition so that you can use those talents to better his kingdom and the community that you're a part of. So sometimes you have to do the hard work. Like, seriously evaluating yourself. What is it that the Lord has gifted me with?
Huh.
And there'd been times I didn't want to be a counselor. That's not a super sexy job, but at the same time, like, God has given me an appetite for it and a stomach for it, and I can do it, so I do it well. Um, Opposed to somebody else, yeah, I could have done sales and probably made a whole lot more money doing that. Um, but for me, just it wasn't appropriate. It wasn't the thing for me. And so, yeah, doing honest evaluation of what is it that God has given me, and then also taking ownership of the things that you're. So those are things that you're doing well already, the dispositions, but taking ownership of the deficits. I've had to study for exams in my civilian career and my military career to get me to where I want to go. Um, I'm not an intellectual. I've got a master's degree, but I just through copious amounts of coffee got through it, and self discipline. Um, I had to take the GRE exam. I had to take some different aptitude exams in the military to get the job that I wanted, and so I had to buckle down and do the things. Like if you want the end result, you have to put in the
Mhm.
work. And so a lot of people I think today are okay with just doing the status quo,
Huh.
and I wanna see what my limits are.
Yeah,
So I'm willing to push to study to learn new things. And even now where I'm at in my career, um, there's always opportunities to grow and to learn and to push yourself into further in the career field or a complementary career field as you go.
it's awesome. When you're counseling people and thinking about what you've shared and your own experiences in life, you've shared a couple things, but could you consolidate maybe some of those practical lenses through which someone could view themselves and their history? Because I think, especially for a young person, you mentioned a few things like do the hard work in analyzing the gifting that God has given you. What are some practical ways that you do that? What does that like practically mean? What is that
Sure.
hard work? And then how can you look back? Because you mentioned like your order in your family, where you were placed as the middle child gave you some unique skill sets that were honed, whether you realize it or not. But in reflection, you kind of realize that. Um, what are some other things that people can kind of look at historically that can help inform their future? Because especially the younger you are, the more difficult it is because the less you have to pull from.
For
So
sure.
that'd be one side is kind of what does some of that hard work practically look like, and then that would be in retrospect.
Mhm.
Do you and then to complement that, and this is a two-sided question.
Yep.
We know that goals and visions and looking into the future can help anchor us and give us direction and a path to pursue. How do you recommend someone take that historical view, do that hard work, and then translate that into maybe mapping out, planning out, assessing opportunities in the future?
Sure.
Big question.
Yeah, it's a big question. It doesn't happen in a it doesn't happen alone, right? I have a teenage son that internalizes everything that his friends say
Mm,
as truth, and I have the same child. Whatever words come out of his teacher's mouth, he takes them as gospel.
mm,
I have to like argue and give him the truth in multiple different cases, and he may or may not believe me. But those peer relationships have such an influence over our life, especially the younger you are. I think the older you get, you kind of get to the point where you're like, well, this is who I am, take it or leave it, right? Uh,
mhm,
but this is who I am. This is who God's made me. So it doesn't happen alone. It happens in community. I, I try to encourage people to talk with folks who are at least 30 years older than them,
huh,
and well, figure out what did that person do that made them successful in that particular area. It's an archetype. So,
Mhm.
there are people that I have in mind. I'm in my 30s right now, and so there's a man, Craig Doctor, that I want to be like because he did his 30s really, really well. Um, there's interactions where I deal with different people, and I think, what would Pete Mathews, my older brother, do in this
Mm.
particular situation? And those people become an archetype, and you filter through what would that person do, and then you go and do it. Uh, b- but in even more maybe overt approach is having somebody that's older than you, that's 30 years older or more, that can tell you specifically, in that situation, this is what I would do. When I was going through my master's program, I really wrestled with my faith. I wrestled with truth. It was a very secular program, and there's a fellow from church that I would take him out to lunch, and he would just talk to me, right? And he would just talk about his experiences growing up in LA County and being a sheriff in LA County, and he would be able to speak with so much confidence about truth, right and wrong. This is true, and that's crap. And he'd be able to speak with so much confidence. I was able to use his confidence to get through,
Mm.
right?
That's cool.
And so I think having people, looking for people who are much older than you. I don't look towards my peers for success. I look towards my peers. I'm going to get caught up in the newest investment. I'm going to get caught up in the newest the. I recently had a friend ask me what watches I buy. It's like, yeah, $15 one from Walmart, bro. Like, just only tell me the time, right? But that comes from a level of practicality, because I've saturated myself with people who grew up with parents who lived through the depression, and so
Mhm.
they have a mindset of things that work.
Mhm.
And so I'd say, um, listen to the voices of people who are older in your life, who are willing to give you input, whether it's a parent, whether it's a coach, whether it's a teacher, whether it's someone who's been in the career field longer than you have. And it is not without pain. Uh, I At one point in my life, when I was a youth pastor and I was studying, doing my master's, um, I, I had a hobby of working in a wood shop, and a great friend of mine, um, I asked him what he thought about this love seat I had made out of recycled pallets. I mean, this thing
Huh.
took me hours, and I was like, "This thing is nice. Like, I could sell this thing." And I asked him, I was like, how much do you think I could sell this for?" 15, $20. I was like, "Oh, man." I was expecting way more than that, right?
Uh-huh.
And so sometimes taking people's criticisms as well, and could I have gotten better at that particular skill? Sure, I totally could have. Or I could just realize I like working carpentry, but framing is way easier than finish work. And so
Mhm.
I'm a framer, dude. Drywall and framer and tile. I can do all that kind of stuff really well, right? What's an eighth of an inch off? You're like, not a big deal. But
You're the finished word guy's nightmare.
for sure, for sure. Uh, and so taking people's criticisms for what they are, right? It's not a diss against you. Don't internalize those things. Look at it as, all right, this is an area where I get to choose to either improve on, or if it's not that important to me, let it go, because there's
Yeah.
way more things that I'd rather be doing. Um, and so, like, who you allow to speak into your life really, really matters, because that's going to dictate who you become. They're able to look at you and give you honest feedback. And so don't fight them on that, but also don't turn your brain off. You're a different person from them. And so you take away each one of those people that I've mentioned, I can find faults in their character or their
Mhm.
relationship with their spouse or their relationship with their children, areas where they have failed. And
Mhm.
so you don't, they're not Jesus Christ. Um,
Mhm.
take their word for what it is, and then kind of pick and choose. Okay, that's wise. I want to use that wisdom and apply it to my life. So allowing people to speak into your life is an important thing, both good, bad, and ugly,
Mhm.
and learn from those things. I think that's a very practical piece for anybody to listen to. Um, I am involved in men's ministry at my church, and I was the youngest guy in one of these groups. And when it came time for prayer, going around the circle talking about prayer, and it's like, oh my goodness, like my prayers, the stuff I need prayer for is way worse. So like,
Mm.
I don't, I'll edit my prayers, and so, but all of those men are kind of in the same season of life. They're older than me, and so like I tried to be a catalyst for change in that environment, and it wasn't good for that culture. So I just started my own group,
Mm.
and my own group now it's an addictions group, and it's a support group. It's called Fat Man, Faithful, Accountable, Teachable,
I
and
love
and
that.
we're trying to be obedient to the disciplines of Scripture and living life appropriately. So you get to set the stage and the pace for the environment that you're in, regardless of other people. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
So
Um,
if I could consolidate real quick a couple concepts that just came up in what you described. There's the seeking out of um, wisdom, experiential wisdom, which is why you would choose someone who's 30 or 30 plus years older. There's the filtering of that wisdom, and then there's a filtering of the wisdom, and then there's the responsibility and ownership of making your own decision.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
something that is partly why you would choose someone older, because it helps filter out a lot of the noise that you would collect from peers.
Yeah.
But then I think that's a really important key is, like you said, not internalizing it, but taking ownership and responsibility about um, what you're going to do with that advice, with
Yeah.
that feedback.
Yeah.
So the better you can vet trusted sources, it helps with that heavy lift
Right.
of what you're gonna apply or what you're going to decide to take on. Because you even said it earlier, um, you are a unique individual, unique person, and you can't always expect the same results from modeling yourself after someone else who's has a different wiring or a different gifting or different skill set than you, but you can pick up principles. And if it seems like there's a fit or alignment, it can help fast track you through a lot of
100%. Yeah.
the difficulties, the roadblocks, the speed bumps that you're facing now at your stage of life that they've already navigated through.
Yeah. And it inspires you. They're not
Yeah.
they're not they're not bound by the limitations that you find yourself in or the obstacles that you find yourself in. They've already been there. And so they're
Hmm.
giving you hope that you can get through it. Um,
That's good. Yeah.
so that's a good consolidation. I think you also asked about, is there tools that you can use to like assess your individual ability, right? And
Hmm.
you can go online and find personality profiles. You can
Hmm.
find yeah, one tool I sent to you a while back was that
Hmm.
Missouri Connections program. That's like a vocational trainer.
Hmm.
You can go in and answer 50 would you rather questions. Would you rather A or rather B? And it'll say, people who answer these questions enjoy these type of jobs. At the same time, it's not a perfect tool, and so
Hmm.
those things I think um, give you a starting point, but
Clues. Yeah.
clues, yeah.
Yeah.
But the reality is, what has God given to you? What opportunities has God given to you? I'm not going to be president of America. I'm not going to go to space. Okay, like we can set these aspirations. Oh, I'm going to be this or that, but you kind of have to be realistic. Like, what is it from your past? What is it immediately around you, left and right? And what is it in the foreseeable future that has measurable steps that you can start now that makes um, you know, gets you going in the right direction? And
Mhm.
so I think setting realistic goals is a big piece of that. I don't often tell my goals to other people, um, because I don't want people to influence my goals. Uh, but they go through quite a rigorous filtering process before I set them up. And
Hmm.
there's two men that are peers that I have 5 and 10 year goals that I meet with every couple of years, and we just go over where we're at with those things. We're actually coming up on our first set of 5 year goals, and
Wow, that's
and
cool.
it's yeah, it is cool, but it's also in a wake up like, oh, I need to get this thing going. Um, and so my wife is somebody I can speak to about those goals because she'll keep me accountable to those things as well. So being selective about the people who hold you accountable to your goals and that you share
Mhm.
your goals with is important too. So setting realistic ones that you actually can accomplish and are valuable. I think that's a helpful tool as well.
That's really cool. Um, as you were talking, there was something that came to mind, um, related to goals and planning and strategizing. Oh, that's what it was. It was a quote that I heard the other day. It's called, "You can't steer a ship that's still." So you
Mm,
can't pivot. You can't make decisions and move if you're just sitting still. So you talked
mm,
about setting goals and then like what's in front of you today. What can you do today? And I think
mhm,
that's really important, especially when it comes to even if it is a big vision or far out 5, 10 year goal. Um, you have to be moving. You have to take action. And I think a lot of people can get in analysis paralysis because like, well, I don't know what it is that I want to do, or I don't know what direction to go in yet. And I think it's very practical just to say, well, what's the next right thing you can do? Like
mm,
you said, look to your right, your left, and then pick a path and do something because that doing something is going to give you the type of feedback that you need to say, okay, check the box that sales isn't for me. Okay, this ministry is showing me that it's time to pivot into something else. And that all happens through action, through making decision
mm.
to be able to inform those pivots.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really tricky because movement is not progress.
right.
Right? So there is this balance of prudence where when you're setting goals and you're determining what the steps are, just because you're moving in a direction,
Mhm,
it may be laterally, right? And a lot of
mhm,
times people I think just try a lot of different things, but they're not actually making any progress. And so you have to be clear about what it is that you're going to and then work
mhm,
the steps backwards. Um, Eh, is it gonna happen? Is it gonna come to fruition? I'm not the author of my days. I'm gonna do the best that I can, but at the end of the day, I'm living a life with open hands. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But as it is for me, I'm gonna take responsibility to do the things that I can control to get to the place that the Lord has laid on my heart. Um, and I mean, I can go into more detail on those goals, but it's just the concept is the same, right? You can busy yourself and lose sight totally of actually making any progress towards the goal. So I think that's where the honest assessment of what is requires. It takes a mature person to take the steps and work it backwards. This is what I need to be doing today so that tomorrow I can take that step and the next day I can take
mhm,
that step. And in reality, it never happens linearly. It's never this perfect clear cut path. It
mhm,
is always zigzagging. There's things
mhm,
the more complexities you add to your family, you add children, you add your career, there's so many more complexities to it, and you can always come back to it if it's important. When Tess and I were going through marriage counseling, it was a hard no. I'm not gonna join the military. fast forward 8 years, not only did I have her blessing, I had her encouragement to do it, right? So it wasn't like I was just nagging. I
Right.
genuinely let that dream go until a different season of life when we wanted the health insurance and we wanted the benefits. So, and we also wanted the other things that go along with it, just personally, that was a motivating factor. And so, um, those things all are important to remember. Is like, just because you're moving doesn't mean you're actually going anywhere. You can be on a treadmill and run miles, but you still stayed in the same spot. And likewise, it's not always linear. So a lot of young people I meet with, because it's not linear, because it's not just this clear cut path, and
Hmm.
it's going to work out, and it's a sure thing. It's going to work out. They're terrified to take the first step. Or maybe they've taken this first or second step, and then now they're assessing, is this really for me? This is a lot of work. I don't know if this is really for me. And that's where the rubber hits the road. Were you just idealistic in setting this goal, or do you need to buck up and
Hmm.
own the fact that it's hard, and you need to do the work to actually get it done? And so, it's case by case for sure, but having
Hmm.
somebody who's older, who's wise in the Lord and can speak to your situation, I think that really helps out.
Could you speak to that a little bit more? Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand the joy and the value and the benefit of persisting long enough to accomplish something when they hit those hurdles or those bumps. Especially, like you said, an older person can look at it and say, "Hey, I know this feels hard right now, but trust me, like it's going to be fine." And then I just think that there's so much joy in accomplishing and getting past those barriers. So, how do you differentiate between this is a difficult thing I need to push through, and I'm going to be so thankful when I'm on the other side of it, versus this is going against, how God's made me, the experiences He's given me. Like,
Mm,
how do you have any advice for how to differentiate between those two difficulties that someone could face?
mm.
And as you think about that, I'm going to share some interesting
Please. Yeah.
data that I think can resonate with a lot of people, which is um, video games. I'm not a gamer, but I think the study of gamification is fascinating. And I bring that up in this context because I recently read a book that was all about the psychology that goes into gaming and game engineers, how they craft the challenge and reward and novelty and these different cues that we're hardwired to find dopamine and acetylcholine that keep us engaged in the game that makes their valuation go up and makes
Mm,
people spend more money.
mm,
So they're very interested in finding this perfect tilt of playing on our God-given hardwiring to stay engaged, to push through, to accomplish things. When you step back and look at it, it's like video games in a lot of scenarios are actually the perfect balance of work and reward
mm,
all coupled into one. So
mm.
I bring that up to say that people typically don't understand or realize that they love working and they'll do it all day. They'll
Yeah.
stay up and burn hours and persist and persevere. Like we're hardwired to overcome challenges, to work, to persist, to pursue reward. Like God has built that into us. The call to create was given, before the fall. We were called to work before the fall to nurture and take care of the garden, all of that. Um, you actually introduced me to the book, uh, uh, the not the Call of the Wild, John Eldridge,
Oh,
uh,
yeah. Yeah. Wild at heart.
Wild at Heart. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I think it's in us to want to persist, persevere, to accomplish things. So yeah, any advice on how to differentiate between a hard stop and a pivot point, and like
Yeah.
I need to push past this?
Yeah. It requires a lot of wisdom for sure. Like you need to make your request known before the Lord. Lord, is this me being stubborn,
Mm,
or is this actually a passion that you're giving to me?
Mhm.
Is this really a calling? I've seen a lot of people who are idealistic, and I used to do this as well. Very idealistic, um, wanting the sky, and was just satisfied with like this. Um, I, we get it a lot also with the younger generation is just like this idea that we can change the world. Like
Mhm.
we have an influence over the world. I had a meaningful conversation when I was in high school. My dad set me up with this an owner of a couple like Taco Bell's, like franchise owner, and that it was him and his best friend in their corporate office. And I wanted to do missions. I wanted to use business for missions, and I was like, I'm going to go and do this different thing. And they said, the sooner that you figure out that you're not gonna save the world, the sooner you figure that out, the sooner God can actually use you to change
Mm.
the world of people around you. Now that's what really matters. That was lost on me for a long, long, long time until I started to realize, like, oh, that was just idealistic goals that I was making that really, um, didn't have wasn't clear cut of what success was. It really didn't have a clear evaluation of whether or not I was gonna accomplish it or not, and so it was just idealistic. But God gives us that for a reason. Um, we as men are geared to go slay dragons, to test the
Mhm.
quality of our metal. We should be putting ourselves because it's this natural, like, thing that God's wired in us to put ourselves in physically strenuous situations so that we can overcome those things and take dominion of those things. That's partly why I love Western style hunting. I talked to a lot of different people. Like, oh, I didn't see any elk today. I'm like, well, did you go 6 miles off the trail? 'Cause I saw them. You know what I mean? Like, they were there. You just got to go, dude. Uh, so I think there's like this element that we miss out on, especially in when you're talking about the video games and social media and digital. Um, that dopamine level that we receive, that reward system that we receive by scrolling or by the
Mhm.
the achievement on those video games, it is the same reward system that we get when we complete a very difficult process. And the dangerous thing about that is we didn't actually do any work, but we still got the same reward.
Mhm.
And it's throwing our mindset now. We would rather watch somebody else doing that difficult thing, and
Mhm.
we can have an emotional experience like, oh, that guy's out there camping in a snowstorm. That looks intense. Wow, that's engaging. But we don't actually go and do that. Whereas in previous generations, you would go and do that activity, and as a result of it, surviving it, overcoming it, you'd come back and be like, yeah, I'm more of a man because of it. And so there's this it's a trap, and you have to be careful and wise about that trap. Um, I was talking to you earlier about that book, John Maxwell's book, The
Yeah.
21 Most Powerful Minutes
Mhm.
in a Leadership's Day. It's the devotional that I'm going through right now, and it talks about um, the phases of leadership growth, and it goes through a couple of different elements that I think are important as you face different levels of opposition. The first phase, I think we've all been at this particular phase. It's I don't know what I don't know. You
Mm.
go into a new organization, you're learning the culture. You don't know what you don't know, so be humble. Accept the criticism of people who have been there for a while. Expect accept their wisdom, their lessons learned, but be humble in the fact that, like, you don't want to stay in that position of I don't know what I don't know, and other people know that as well, that I don't know what I don't know. So, like, the motivation is to grow through that. The
Mhm.
the next phase is I don't know what I don't know, but I'm willing to start.
Mm.
I'm just willing to accept the fact that I want to learn. I want to grow. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to take responsibility for the things that I can take responsibility for. When I show up to meetings, I have a pen, I have a notepad. I show up 10 minutes early. I have questions prepared. I'm ready to be a value adding asset to this, even though I don't have all the answers. The third section is I start to grow, and I know that I'm starting to become uh, uh, an expert maybe in this
Mhm.
particular field, or I'm starting to grow and I'm starting to understand the process, and other people can look at me and see that growth. They validate it with their words. They give me more responsibility. And then the last one is I simply go because of what I do know. And that's when you're teaching other people. That's when you're actually growing through it. I think those processes for leadership growth applied to goals as well, because if you don't really have clear set expectations of what the end looks like, you're just idealistic. Um, and then as you start taking those steps towards that goal, it starts becoming apparent. What do you need to shave away from? What are things are distracting to your end goal, and where do you need to focus and hone in your attention? And then you start getting to that point in life where like it's very obvious you've overcome obstacles and you're on kind of mid-range towards an end goal. And the last one is like you're there, and people can look back at you and say he's there, he's got it, but only you know what the steps were leading up to
Mhm.
that. So I think those are all important. And it takes time, dude. I was talking to you about uh, last time we spoke about Joseph, and
Yeah.
just the time it took for him to go through to become the man who God wanted him to become, and the obstacles he had to go through. As a young man, he was given visions of the future, and arrogantly, ignorantly, he went and told his brothers about these things who were all older than him. He told his mom and his dad about these things. God was giving him a gift, and because of his arrogance, he was flaunting that, and it
Mm.
and it caused him a lot of issues. You fast forward to his experience, imprisonment, and going to Egypt. He was nobody. He had to go and work in obscurity for years and years, falsely accused. He went to prison. Even in prison, he tried to advocate for himself. After he interpreted the dream, he went to the baker,
Mhm.
the cupbearer, said, "Tell Pharaoh about me." Right? He's advocating for his own self. But God wasn't done with him. He's still working on him, shaving off those areas of pride and humility. And you see this huge change in his life. The whole time he's faithful. He's taking control. He's being responsible for the portion that God has given him.
Mm.
He's growing in rank. At Potiphar's house, he was growing in rank. In the prison, he ended up running the prison because of the little things he was faithful in. But you see the humility of him when he goes before Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says, "I hear you can interpret dreams." And he says, "God can interpret your dreams." Right? It's not me. And so I think that shows the progression of us as we mature and become leaders, and work towards our goals. It's a realization that sometimes we have to go through those seasons of obscurity where we're just taking responsibility. All I have is today. What do I need to do to end today well? And I'm going to do that again tomorrow. And I'm going to do that again the next day. All I have is to take responsibility for today and to finish today well, so that it opens up opportunities for me in the future. And I honor God in my work. And the end goal is remaining humble, and those things are before the Lord. So I think that there's a lot to be said there. They're getting back to the beginning, like God has ordained your days. He's set in course the person you're going to find to marry, the career that you're going to set. He's visiting you beginning, middle, and end. Like he's not bound by time. He's there. And so go do the things, be productive, take dominion of the areas that God has put you in, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. The Lord can call you home tonight. The Lord can
Yeah.
call you home tomorrow. And that's your portion. And so living open-handed, grateful for today, grateful for the opportunities. Every night we pray before bed. With my kids, and I say, "Thank you, Lord, for another day of life."
Mm.
Right? All we have is right now. So take ownership of the right now, because you don't know what's going to happen later on. So I don't know. I think there's some hope in that as well, that God's in control.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of confidence, and I think that's what a lot of people want, is they want confidence in knowing that they're on the right path, headed in the right direction, and when you can trust God to direct your steps, um, he'll work it out. I love
Mm,
it.
yeah, man.
JP, brother, thank you for taking the time to share with us, your wisdom, your experience, the different pivots you've made. I think it's inspiring to me big time, and I know it will be to a lot of other people too, to see someone who's approached life the way that you have and learned what you've learned, and you're still on the path.
Mm.
And I think we can all be inspired to seize the day, carpe diem.
Carpe
Uh,
diem.
yeah,
CW,
balanced with. Or go ahead. What?
yeah, thank you for holding the course, man. Thank you for
Oh,
being
dude,
somebody that a decade or more down the road is still living with integrity. You're not perfect, but you're walking the course. So many people have fallen away. Even people that we went to school with have fallen
yeah.
away. And so it's admirable. The Lord is living and active. He's working in your life. Thank you for your ministry and the service that you give to young men and people our age and people who are older. Hold true, man. Stay the
That's
course.
my joy. Yeah. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, bud. All righty. We'll see you next
All
time.
right.
All right.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks,
See you, bud.
JP.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.